welcome back to Who to Know. So today I am breaking down a butternut squash, and that is something that I've realized is not the most commonly known piece of information. So I wanted to share that with you guys today. So this is my butternut squash. They are coming in season now, so that's part of why I wanted to show that to you all, so that you kind of knew what to do with it when you see them on sale in the grocery store. So the first thing that I do is I peel it first and then I cut it. So that is the easiest way to handle it. The one thing you're gonna really want is a good peeler. So I really prefer this style because I can very quickly do this and I don't have to hold on to a peeler like that, but it will still work. But you just want one that's super sharp. So if you have a pretty crummy peeler, you probably do want to upgrade. This is like $3 or $4. You can buy them on Amazon. You can get them at TJ Maxx, anywhere like that. So this is the Kuhn Recone Switzerland brand. But like I said, they're usually really inexpensive. And so I highly recommend this one, but whatever peeler you have, it is really nice and sharp is what you're gonna want for the butternut squash. So let's get started. Okay, so the way that I like to start is I take my peeler and I go around the base here. And then I start just kind of going in a semicircle. I start going in a circle around the base. And this is just how you get kind of this round, awkward part. Go around one more time since this one's kind of big at the bottom. All right, so now we've done that part. So then I transition to this. And then I'm able to just do these nice long strips. And so this is definitely the easiest way to get a butternut squash broken down, because if you were to try to cut the squash before peeling it, then you're stuck with how do you get the peel off of all those pieces, because they are such big vegetables. And so I have found that peeling it first is not as daunting, and then you can kind of come up to the top here and just try to get a little bit of this, but you don't need to get right up to the stem because you're going to be cutting that off anyway. So discard our peels. So we've got it totally peeled. And so then what we're going to do is I like to cut the top off first, and I just kind of make sure I got it all, and then I turn to the bottom and I do the same thing. And again, turn to make sure you get it all. So then this is the part with the seeds in it, and this is just flesh. So usually what I do is right around here, I separate it, and then you've got this, and you cut it in half. And so then you've got your halves with the seeds, and we're gonna get a spoon and scoop the seeds out. Okay, so we've got a spoon. Any spoon will do, teaspoon, if you've got like a soup spoon, those can work really well. So then you're just gonna scrape around the outside here. So scrape with a spoon. And you can just kind of, I usually just have either a bowl, you can have your trash can standing by, or I just make a pile of scraps and then just bring my trash can over when I'm done. However you like to discard your scraps. All right, so we have got that nice and smooth. So then the way that I like to break this down is I sort of go, it's almost like the opposite of slicing an onion a little bit. So you're gonna, with an onion, you would go like this, which you can do that, but I actually find it's a little bit easier to do it inversely. So I try to cut it into fairly similar sizes. So we've got our little cup shape slices here. And depending on what you're using this for, if you were just gonna be roasting it to then make a puree, then the sizes don't really matter. But I'm gonna be roasting these for eating on a, like roasting them on a pan. So then I like to go through and I get to the end where I've got kind of this weird shape. So then I just slice it like that. So it's not perfect, but I like to have them similar shapes and sizes so that they can cook more evenly, and they're all done around the same time. So I'm gonna go ahead and slice all of these, and then we will get to what's called the neck, which is the portion without any seeds. Okay, so we have got our neck left. And the way I like to do that is I like to just sort of eyeball, okay, so this was about the width of all the slices. I think I'm gonna get about 4, possibly 5 slices out of this. So the first cut I make, I'm trying to make it pretty similar in width to the slices that I got from the neck. So I make one slice, then I make 2, and then I look at the last one and I try to just kind of cut that one in half to make it fairly even. So again, not perfection, but just as even as possible because we want it to cook evenly. So then you look at that and you slice it into 4 slices as well, because that's again similar to the size that we made the other cuts. And then you dice that. And so now we've got similar sizes to what we had earlier. So I'm gonna finish that up and then we will talk about roasting those. Also, if you did not have a knife that was long enough, if you had a really long one or your knife is shorter than mine, then you could always cut this in half first before you made the slices. And then that way you would be able to get the slices that you need without endangering your fingers. Okay, so we have our butternut squash all diced up and ready for the oven. And I usually roast vegetables, it's sort of a rule of thumb for me, at 425 degrees. They vary in the length that they have to cook, obviously, because the density, the moisture, the size, all of that varies. But what I want to recommend is parchment paper. So parchment paper is magic. And I use that sometimes in tandem with a nonstick spray if I want extra crispiness, especially on something like potatoes or oven French fries, things like that. But the thing that's so magical about parchment paper is that you get the crispiness of the vegetable or the potato or whatever it is that you're roasting without it sticking to the pan. And no amount of nonstick spray is going to keep it from fully not sticking to the pan. And so parchment paper is magic in that, where you're getting a really nice crispiness without all of the sticking and having to scrape it off of the bottom of the pan. So I have found the cheapest place to get parchment paper being at Sam's, because you can buy a big 2-pack of it. You could probably order it fairly inexpensively on Amazon. At Kroger, they have actual little sheets that you just pop out of a box. It is a little pricier places like Kroger because you're buying a smaller roll and you're paying more for it, but it's definitely worth it. With roasting of vegetables, you can have it be a little bit squished here. If I was gonna put any more vegetables on this tray, I would be splitting this into 2 trays because this is as full as it can get, because otherwise you're just steaming, you're not roasting because they are too close to each other. So in fact, I will probably split these at some point because I'm going to add some asparagus, but I don't want to add it yet because this is going to take way longer to cook than the asparagus. So I will probably split it onto 2 trays when I go to add the asparagus. And that won't be a problem because it won't be sticking because of my parchment paper. So the trick with roasting vegetables is you don't want to overcrowd the pan. You do want to add some kind of fat, whether it's just a tiny bit of oil, some butter. Oil tends to do better because it does not burn as easily. And then seasonings, salt, pepper are really just obviously basic seasonings. You can always add fresh herbs, like rosemary is really good with a lot of roasted vegetables. In the fall and winter, I love to roast butternut squash. And sometimes other root vegetables, but I will add cinnamon, and it just gives it a really nice warm feel, and it just feels so cozy and fancy, and it's just adding one little touch. So that is my plug for how to break down a butternut squash and parchment paper together. So these butternut squash typically roast for about 30 to 40 minutes, depending on how much you've got in there, how hot your oven is, if you have it at 425 or if you need to have it at a different temperature for something else. I will toss it at least once during the cooking process. Again, you don't have to be quite as concerned with that with the parchment paper because you don't have to worry about it sticking to the bottom of the pan quite so much. So, but I hope you all try this out. Leave a comment when you give it a shot and let us know how it turns out. So happy cooking.